Welcome to Singapore Property Talk Law. Buying a condo, especially new launch, can feel, I don't know, a bit overwhelming, kind of like navigating a maze.
Right, right.
So today we're going to break it all down, step by step.
Exactly. We'll cover everything you need to know from, making sure you're financially ready all the way to understanding those progressive payments everyone's always talking about. We'll break down the costs for Singapore citizens, PRs, foreigners.
Awesome.
So no matter what your situation is, you'll leave feeling confident.
Okay, cool.
Hmm.
Let's dive in.
Yeah.
It's so easy to get caught up in all the excitement,
Yeah.
shiny new brochures and show flats.
Oh, yeah.
But before you fall in love with that quartz countertop, there's something really crucial we need to talk about first, and that's your finances.
Oh, absolutely. This is like building a house, You need a solid foundation.
Yeah.
So before you even start looking at listings, you need to understand two key concepts, TDSR and LTV.
Okay, can you unpack those acronyms for us?
Sure.
What is TDSR?
TDSR stands for total debt servicing ratio.
Okay.
Think of it as a financial safety net. It basically limits how much you can borrow based on your income and any existing debts you have.
Right.
This ensures that you can actually comfortably manage those monthly mortgage payments without being too stretched. You can actually calculate your TDSR online. There's a bunch of tools that'll give you a really realistic picture of your borrowing power.
So it's like a reality check before I start dreaming too big.
Exactly.
Okay, cool. And what about LTV?
Okay, so LTV stands for loan-to-value ratio.
Mm-hmm.
And this basically determines the maximum percentage of the property price the bank is willing to loan you.
Got it.
So, for example, if the LTV is 75%, you need to come up with that 25% down payment.
Ah, the down payment.
Yeah.
A big hurdle for many.
It can be, especially for those really nice prime district condos.
All right.
That's why getting an in-principle approval, or IPA, from a bank early on is a really smart move.
Okay, so an IPA tells me exactly how much a bank is willing to loan me based on my specific situation.
Yeah. Think of it as getting pre-approved for a shopping spree, but for a condo.
I like that. Okay.
Exactly. And it can really save you some heartache later on.
Yeah.
Now, let's not forget the role of your CPF.
Yes, the Central Provident Fund.
Yes.
Singapore's trustee savings scheme.
Yeah.
I know it plays a big part in property purchases here.
It does. You can use, your CPF savings for both your down payment and your monthly mortgage installments. But there are rules, especially if you're buying your second property.
Okay.
So, for instance, you'll need to set aside half of the CPF minimum sum before you can start using your excess savings.
So understanding TDSR, LTV, and my CPF situation, it's kind of like having a financial roadmap for this whole condo journey.
Exactly. It helps you set realistic expectations, and it avoids those I wish I knew this before moments.
Yeah, nobody wants one of those. Okay, now that we have our financial foundation sorted, can we finally start looking at those gorgeous condos?
Absolutely. Singapore's new launch condo scene is booming. There's so much out there. It's like stepping into a candy store.
Amazing. I can already feel the excitement building.
Right.
But with so many choices out there, how do you even begin to narrow it down?
Well, the first step is, defining your needs and priorities. What kind of lifestyle are you looking for? Are you a busy professional? Maybe you're craving that city center hub with all the amenities. Or, are you dreaming of a tranquil retreat in a quieter neighborhood? It's all about, what matters most to you.
Right.
A poolside oasis or just steps away from a bustling hawker center.
Yeah.
Aligning that with your lifestyle.
Got it. Okay, so location is like our first filter.
Yeah.
What comes next?
Then we zoom in on the condo itself.
Okay.
Consider things like the size, the layout, the amenities, even the developer's reputation. Do you need a spacious 3-bedroom, maybe for a growing family? Or would a cozy 1-bedroom suit your needs better?
Right.
Do you crave an open plan layout? Or do you prefer something a little more traditional? And then there's those lifestyle perks.
Yeah.
A gym, a swimming pool, a tennis court. So many options.
So many options.
Yeah.
And speaking of options, you mentioned developer reputation. Why is that so important?
Well, think of it like choosing a contractor to build your dream home,
Okay.
A developer's track record can really tell you a lot about their commitment to quality, their ability to meet deadlines,
Yeah.
their overall reliability. It's definitely worth doing some research on their past projects,
Hmm.
checking their reputation for delivering on their promises.
So it's like doing your due diligence, right, before I make that commitment.
Exactly. Exactly. And don't forget about those show flats.
Yes. The show flats. I've always wondered, are they just about fancy decor and staging,
Not really.
or do they offer real value?
It's all about, offering a tangible experience of the space. It's not just about admiring the furniture. It's about actually picturing yourself living there.
Right.
Imagine cooking in that kitchen, unwinding in the living room, waking up in that bedroom.
So it's like taking my future home for a test drive.
Precisely. Pay attention to the quality of the materials, the appliances included, the overall design. Don't hesitate to ask questions about, the construction process, the expected completion date.
Okay, awesome. So we've explored our lifestyle preferences,
Yeah.
researched locations, developers. We've even checked out show flats.
Mm-hmm.
What's the next step in this exciting journey?
Well, let's say you found that perfect condo, the one that really ticks all the boxes.
Yeah.
Now it's time to learn how to actually secure that dream and make it yours.
Okay, I'm ready. Let's get down to business. What's the first step in securing a new launch condo?
Okay, so the process starts with expressing your interest in a unit, by submitting an expression of interest or EOI form. And along with that form, you'll need to provide a blank check as a booking fee to the developer.
So it's like raising my hand saying, hey, I'm serious about this.
Exactly, exactly. It expresses your intent to purchase, and it secures your place in line, especially, for those popular launches where units get snapped up quickly.
Makes sense. What about that booking fee? How much can I expect to shell out at this stage?
Typically, the booking fee is 5% of the purchase price, and it's payable in cash. But remember, this is just part of your down payment, and it gets deducted from the overall purchase price later on.
Got it. Okay, so I've submitted my EOI and my booking fee. What's next?
Next comes the option to purchase, or OTP.
Okay.
This document grants you, the buyer, the exclusive right to purchase the unit within a specific time frame,
Got it.
usually 3 weeks.
So it's like a reservation period where I can say yes or no.
Exactly. The OTP will outline really important details, like the unit number, the purchase price, the completion date, and any other, terms and conditions. It's super important to really scrutinize that OTP and make sure you understand everything, before signing.
This is where a solicitor comes in handy.
Oh, absolutely.
Cool.
Having legal representation is so important throughout this whole process. Your solicitor can review the OTP, guide you through any of those legal complexities, and protect your interests.
Awesome. And what about financing? Do I need to have my loan secured during this OTP period?
Yes, you do. You'll need to get a formal letter of offer from your bank that'll outline the loan terms and conditions, and that needs to be done within that 3-week window.
Okay, so it's a busy 3 weeks.
Yeah.
Filled with signing documents, seeking legal advice, finalizing that financing. What a whirlwind.
It can be, but it's a super crucial phase. It sets the stage for a smooth transaction. Now, assuming you've exercised your OTP, consulted your solicitor, and secured your financing, we move on to the sales and purchase agreement.
Okay. The sales and purchase agreement, or SMP. What makes this document so important?
The SMT is like the most important legal document in this entire process. Think of it as the ultimate contract, between you and the developer. It outlines all the terms and conditions of the sale.
Got it.
It covers everything.
Wow.
From, the purchase price to the payment schedule, the completion date, even any warranties that are provided by the developer.
So no room for assumptions or like verbal agreements.
Yeah.
Everything's clearly spelled out here.
Exactly. And again, your solicitor will play a really crucial role in reviewing that SMP, ensuring that it protects your interests and clarifying anything that might seem unclear.
That's reassuring to hear. So once I sign that SMP, I'm officially committed to buying the condo. Things are getting real.
They are. Signing that SMP is a major milestone. You've transitioned from securing the unit to officially owning it.
Wow.
And that's where we dive into, the fascinating world of progressive payments.
Oh, progressive payments. I've heard this term thrown around a lot, but I'm still not entirely clear on what it means. Can you break it down for me?
Sure. Progressive payments are kind of a unique aspect of buying a new launch condo.
Okay.
Unlike buying, a resale property where you pay a lump sum upon completion,
Right.
progressive payments actually allow you to spread those payments out over the construction period.
So I'm paying as the condo's being built.
Precisely.
Okay.
And this makes it, much more manageable, especially if you're a first-time buyer.
Right.
Maybe you don't have, tons of cash on hand.
Yeah, nobody does.
I'm already liking the sound of this.
Yeah. But how does this payment schedule work? What are the key milestones, and when do I need to make those payments?
Well, you've already made the first payment, right? That 5% booking fee.
Right.
The next payment, usually 15%, is due within 8 weeks of signing the OTP.
So that initial 20% is coming from my pocket in cash or CPF savings.
Correct. After that initial down payment, the remaining payments are actually structured based on the condo's construction progress.
Oh, interesting. So I'm paying as certain milestones are reached.
Exactly. Each stage triggers a specific payment. We'll dive into the exact breakdown of all those milestones and payments in the next part of our deep dive.
Ooh, I'm already on the edge of my seat. But before we move on, are there any other costs I should be aware of at this stage, besides the purchase price?
Yes. One significant cost that often catches buyers off guard is stamp duty.
Oh, right.
In Singapore, there are two types to consider: buyer stamp duty, or BSD, and additional buyer stamp duty, or ABSD.
Okay, two types of stamp duty. Let's unpack those.
All right. So BSD is a tax that applies to all property buyers in Singapore,
Okay.
regardless of their citizenship. And it's calculated based on either the purchase price or the market value of the property, whichever is higher.
So it's like a non-negotiable fee that's part of buying property in Singapore.
Exactly. And the BSD rate is tiered, meaning it increases as the value of the property goes up.
Okay.
So the first $180,000 is taxed at 1%, the next $180,000 at 2%, and so on. And the highest tier is 4% for any amount exceeding $3 million.
Okay, so there's a formula involved. Thankfully, I've seen some online calculators that can help estimate the BSD based on the property value.
Right.
Now, what about ABSD? Why is it called additional?
Well, it's called additional because it's payable on top of the BSD.
Okay.
But it only applies to certain categories of buyers, mainly to manage property demand and, discourage excessive speculation.
Got it. So not everyone has to pay ABSD.
Correct. So, for example, if you're a Singapore citizen and you're buying your first residential property, you are exempt.
That's good news for first-time buyers.
It is.
What about other categories? What kind of ABSD rates can they expect?
So for Singapore citizens buying their second residential property, the current rate is 17%, and it goes up to 25% for their third and subsequent properties.
And for PRs?
For PRs, ABSD applies right from their first property purchase. The rate for their first property is 5%. It increases to 25% for their second and subsequent properties.
Okay, and I'm guessing foreigners face the highest rates.
Yes. Foreigners buying any residential property in Singapore currently pay a flat ABSD rate of 30%.
Wow, those are some significant costs.
Yeah.
So understanding both BSD and ABSD is super important for budgeting accurately.
Absolutely. Now, besides stamp duty, you also have legal fees associated with the conveyancing.
Right.
That basically covers the legal process of transferring property ownership.
So the lawyers who are handling all the paperwork, making sure everything's in order.
Exactly. It's important to clarify those fees up front, with your solicitor.
And I'm guessing preparing for all those costs well in advance is crucial to avoid any last-minute surprises or delays.
You got it. Financial preparedness is key, throughout this entire process. Now, before we jump into those specifics of the progressive payment schedule, let's touch upon some potential pitfalls. Buying a new launch condo isn't without its challenges.
Ah, yes. Every rose has its thorns. What are some of the things that buyers should be aware of?
One common pitfall is getting too fixated on that estimated T-top P date,
Okay.
assuming that the condo will be ready exactly on that date.
So I shouldn't start packing my boxes just yet.
Exactly. Delays can happen due to, unforeseen circumstances like construction challenges or changes in regulations.
So having a little flexibility and a backup plan is wise. What else should buyers watch out for?
Another pitfall is not comparing interest rates carefully. Those attractive rates they offer on new launch projects, they might seem tempting, but remember, they're often higher than rates for completed properties.
So it's like a premium you pay for buying a condo that's still under construction.
You could say that. Always compare interest rates for both new launches and completed properties, and factor in all those fees and charges to get a true picture of that borrowing cost.
Okay, good advice. So delays in top E dates, comparing those interest rates carefully. Any other pitfalls to be aware of?
Yeah, there's one more that's particularly important, not reviewing the specifications in the S&P carefully enough.
Okay.
The S&P will detail the materials used, the finishes in your unit, the appliances included, all those essential features.
Yeah, it's like a blueprint for my future home.
Exactly.
Eh,
Don't make assumptions about what's included.
Okay.
If something is important to you, make sure it's explicitly stated in that S&P. Don't be shy about asking questions and seeking clarification.
So it's all about being thorough, detail-oriented,
Yeah.
and not letting excitement overshadow those important details.
Exactly. And remember, your solicitor is your best ally throughout this whole process. Don't hesitate to seek their advice on any aspect of the purchase.
All right. I'm feeling much more prepared now. But before we move on, can you remind me what we've covered so far? Just want to make sure I'm keeping up.
Of course. So we started by building that crucial financial foundation, understanding TDSR, LTV, and that role of CPF.
Yes.
Then we, dived into the world of condo hunting, exploring location, developer reputation, even the value of those show flats. We also navigated those initial steps of securing a condo, from the EOI and that booking fee to the OTP and that all-important S&P. We even touched upon some essential costs like stamp duty and legal fees, as well as, those potential pitfalls to watch out for.
Well, we covered a lot. We're not done yet, are we?
We're not done yet.
All good.
We'll dive deeper into that progressive payment schedule in the next part of our deep dive.
Awesome.
So stay tuned to unravel the intricacies of those construction milestones and those payment stages.
Okay. I can't wait. I'm sure our listeners are just as eager to learn more. We'll be back after a short break. Welcome back to Singapore Property Talk Law. Before the break, we were laying the groundwork, for buying a new launch condo, from finances to those potential pitfalls.
Right.
And now it's time to dive into that unique payment structure, the progressive payment scheme.
Yeah, you got it. The progressive payment scheme basically aligns your payments with the condo's construction progress. So instead of, a huge lump sum up front,
Right.
you make payments in stages,
Right.
which can be a real game changer, especially for managing your finances.
I like it already. Okay, I'm all ears. Break down those milestones and payments, so our listeners can really grasp how this works.
Okay, so remember those first two payments we talked about, the 5% booking fee and that 15% due within 8 weeks of signing the OTP. That's 20% down, covered by either cash or CPF savings.
Right, that's the foundation we've already laid. When does construction really kick in?
Typically, the first major construction milestone is when they complete the foundation work.
Okay.
And this triggers a 10% payment. You can think of it as, solidifying that base.
Got it. So by the time the foundation is laid, I've already paid 30% of the total price.
That's right. And this 10% payment is usually split. So 5% will come from, your pocket, either cash or CPF. And the other 5% is financed by your bank loan.
Interesting. So my bank loan starts kicking in even before the walls are up. What's the next milestone?
Next up is a big one. The completion of the reinforced concrete framework.
Okay.
Those vertical columns and horizontal beams, they make up the building skeleton. This stage usually triggers another 10% payment,
Okay.
but this time it's fully financed by your bank loan.
Okay, so we're at 40% paid and my condo is starting to take shape. What happens after the skeleton is complete?
Then things start moving inside. So the next milestone usually involves putting up those internal partition walls, that divide the units, create the layout.
Yeah.
This stage triggers a 5% payment.
Okay.
And again, this is financed by your bank loan.
45% paid.
Yeah.
The walls are up. What's next?
Time for a roof over our heads. Completing the roofing works is the next milestone.
Right.
And it triggers another 5% payment, usually financed by the bank.
Okay. So at this point, I've paid 50% of the total price and my condo has, walls and a roof. It's really coming together.
It is. And as the building progresses, the next stage usually involves installing those all-important door and window frames, along with, the electrical wiring and piping.
Right.
This triggers another 5% payment,
Okay.
again, covered by your bank loan.
55% down. We're getting closer to a functional space. What happens next?
Next up is the completion of the car park and the internal roads and drainage systems within the development.
Okay.
This signifies another 5% payment financed by your bank loan.
Okay, 60% paid, and the condo's looking more and more like a real community. What's the next big milestone?
Now we're talking infrastructure. So completing those external works, like connecting the development to, the main water, electricity, and gas supplies.
Right.
This usually triggers a more substantial payment, 25% of the purchase price. And yes, this is also typically financed by your bank loan.
Wow, a big jump there. So by this point, I've paid 85% of the total price, and the condo is, nearing completion.
Exactly. All that's left is the final touch, the issuance of the temporary occupation permit,
Okay.
or TOP.
Mm-hmm.
This basically signifies that the condo is ready for occupancy, and it triggers that final payment of 15%.
And their final 15% is also financed by the bank, right?
Yes, typically. So by the time you get your T's and you step into your brand new condo, you've made progressive payments totaling 100% of that purchase price.
It's really a clear breakdown. I can see how this gradual approach makes buying a new launch condo so much more manageable.
Exactly. It's all about spreading out those payments and aligning them, with those construction stages. But here's another important point. Even though you're not making that lump sum payment up front, you are still accruing interest on your bank loan throughout this entire process.
That's right. So even though those initial monthly payments might be a little lower, especially before the TAPI is issued, the interest is still ticking away in the background.
Precisely. It's super important to factor in that interest cost when you're, budgeting and planning your finances.
Okay, definitely keep that in mind. Now let's revisit that other major cost we talked about, stamp duty.
Stamp duty. That unavoidable expense for any property buyer in Singapore. We already discussed the two types, buyer's stamp duty, or BSD, and additional buyer's stamp duty, or ABSD.
Okay.
But let's dive a little deeper, into how they're calculated and what you need to be prepared for.
Sounds good. Let's start with BSD, that tax that everyone has to pay. Can you remind me how it's calculated?
Yeah, sure. So BSD is calculated based on either the purchase price or the market value of the property, whichever is higher. And remember, it's tiered,
Right.
meaning the rate increases as the property value goes up.
Right.
So can I give you a concrete example?
Yeah, please.
Just to make those, numbers a little more real.
Yeah.
Let's say you're buying a condo for $1 million.
Okay.
For the first $180,000, you'd pay 1% BSD, which comes to $1,800. Then for the next $180,000, the rate is 2%, which is $3,600, and so on.
Got it. The higher the value, the higher the BSD.
Right. Exactly.
And when do I actually have to pay this BSD?
BSD must be paid within 14 days of signing that S&P.
Yeah.
You can either pay in cash or you can use your CPF savings.
Okay, so it's another cost to be prepared for, early on in the process. Okay, now let's move on to ABSD, which is a little more complex, right?
Yeah, ABSD is a little trickier because
Okay.
it depends on your citizenship status and how many properties you already own. It's essentially an extra tax on top of BSD, and it's aimed at, cooling the market and managing that demand.
Right. We discussed those different rates for Singapore citizens, PRs, and foreigners before the break.
Mm-hmm.
But can you remind me why first-time buyers get a better deal?
Absolutely. So if you're a Singapore citizen buying your first residential property, you don't have to pay any ABSD. It's a way to, encourage homeownership among citizens.
Right. That's a nice perk for first-timers.
Yes, it is.
But what if I'm a Singapore citizen buying my second property?
Then the current ABSD rate is 17%, and it goes up to 25% if you're buying your third or subsequent property.
So the more properties I own, the higher that ABSD.
Yes.
Makes sense. And what about PRs? They don't get that first-timer exemption, right?
That's right. For PRs, ABSD kicks in right from their first property purchase. The rate for their first property is 5%, and it increases to 25% for their second and subsequent properties.
Okay, and what about foreigners? They face the highest ABSD rate, right?
Yeah.
Yes. Foreigners currently pay a flat ABSD rate of 30% on any residential property purchase in Singapore.
Wow. That's a hefty amount.
Yeah.
So both BSD and ABSD can significantly impact the overall cost of buying a new launch condo.
Absolutely. It's so important to factor in these stamp duties when you're budgeting and planning your finances. And remember, it's always wise to seek professional advice from, a qualified tax advisor or a solicitor to really understand your specific stamp duty obligations.
Great advice. Now that we have a clearer understanding of the progressive payment scheme
Yeah.
and, those potential costs associated with stamp duty, what else should we consider before taking the plunge?
Well, now comes the part where patience truly comes into play.
Okay.
Waiting for that construction to be completed, your condo to be ready for occupancy.
Yeah.
But don't worry, it's not just a passive waiting game.
No.
There are still important milestones and things to be aware of during this phase.
Okay, I'm intrigued. What can I expect during this waiting period?
We'll explore all those details in the final part of our deep dive. Stay tuned as we navigate those exciting final stages of buying your new launch condo and becoming a proud condo owner in Singapore.
Welcome back to Singapore Property Talk Law. We've made it to the final part of our deep dive.
Right.
We've gone through those initial steps of buying a new launch condo.
Hmm.
From financial planning to condo hunting, securing the deal, understanding those costs involved.
Right.
And with those progressive payments made and the top P finally issued, we're at that pivotal moment, officially becoming a condo owner.
Yes, a significant milestone for sure.
Huge. But the journey doesn't quite end with just collecting the keys, right?
No, it doesn't.
Owning a condo comes with its own set of responsibilities, both financial and legal. So let's talk about those. What are some of those ongoing financial commitments that condo owners really need to be aware of?
Okay. Well, the most obvious one is your monthly mortgage payment. We've talked about how that progressive payment scheme helps to, spread out the payments during construction.
Yeah.
But once the tile P is issued, the full loan amount is actually dispersed.
Okay.
And those regular monthly payments, they really kick in.
Right. And those monthly payments usually include both the principal amount I'm paying back
Yeah.
and the interest on the loan, correct?
Exactly. So it's super important to factor in those monthly mortgage payments into your budget,
Yeah.
to make sure that you can comfortably manage those.
Okay. Mortgage payments, check. What other regular expenses should I be prepared for?
Another significant expense is the monthly maintenance fee.
Ah, the maintenance fee. What exactly does that cover?
So think of it as, your contribution to keeping the whole condo development, in tip-top shape. So the maintenance fee covers the upkeep and management of all those, those shared spaces and amenities.
All right, so things like the swimming pool, gym, landscaping, security, general maintenance of the building.
Exactly. It's usually calculated based on your unit's share value, which basically reflects, your proportionate ownership within the development.
Okay, so if I have, a larger unit,
Yes.
my share value is higher,
Higher share value.
and therefore my maintenance fee is also higher.
That's right. Exactly. And these fees are collected by the Management Corporation Strata Title, or MCST.
Okay, the MCST, what exactly is their role in the condo community?
Okay, so the MCST is essentially, the governing body of the entire development.
Okay.
Think of them as a mini government, specifically for your condo.
Right.
They are elected by the condo owners, and they are responsible for, managing the common areas, handling all the finances, and ensuring that the whole community operates smoothly.
Got it. So they handle everything from, maintaining that swimming pool
Right.
to organizing those community events.
Yeah, you could put it that way. They play a really crucial role in making sure, that the condo is a well-maintained and enjoyable place to live.
Awesome. Okay, so mortgage payments and maintenance fees. Those are the two big, recurring expenses. Are there any other costs I should keep in mind?
Yes, there's property tax, which is an annual tax levied by the government on, all property owners in Singapore.
And how is that calculated?
It's calculated based on the annual value of your property, which
Okay.
is basically an estimate of how much rental income your unit could generate in a year.
Okay. So even if I'm not renting out my condo,
Yeah,
I still have to pay property tax based on its potential rental income.
correct. That's right. And the property tax rates are, they're tiered. So there are different rates for owner-occupied properties and for properties that are rented out.
Right. Okay, so property tax is another important expense to, factor in. Anything else?
Don't forget about insurance. As a condo owner, it's so important to protect your investment with, adequate insurance coverage.
Right. What kind of insurance are we talking about here?
So there's fire insurance, which is usually mandatory, and it basically covers any damage to the building structure in case of a fire.
Yeah.
And most condo developments actually have a master fire insurance policy
Okay.
that covers the entire building.
That makes sense. But what about my belongings inside the unit?
That's where home contents insurance comes in. It covers, your personal belongings against things like theft, damage, or loss.
So it's like a safety net for, all my valuable possessions.
Exactly. And depending on, your individual needs, you might also want to consider other types of insurance, like personal liability insurance or mortgage insurance.
Okay, so we've got mortgage payments, maintenance fees, property tax, and insurance. Those are the key, financial responsibilities of condo ownership. What about the legal side of things?
One of the most important legal aspects is understanding the rules and regulations of your condo development. These are usually outlined in the condo's bylaws. They cover, a wide range of issues.
Okay, like what kind of issues? Can you give me some examples?
Well, things like noise levels, pet ownership, renovation guidelines, use of the common areas, even guest restrictions.
So it's all about, making sure that everyone in that condo community can live, harmoniously together.
Exactly. And it's the responsibility of each condo owner to, familiarize themselves with those bylaws and to comply with them.
Got it. And I'm assuming those bylaws are pretty easy to find.
Oh, yeah.
I don't have to like go on a scavenger hunt.
Not at all.
But,
They're usually, part of that welcome package you get when you collect your keys. You can
Right.
also usually find them on the MCST's website or through, the managing agent.
Okay, awesome. So understanding the bylaws is really crucial. Are there any other legal aspects I should be aware of?
Yes. It's also important to understand, your rights and responsibilities when it comes to decision making, within the condo community. You have a voice,
Oh, cool.
things like electing the MCS team members, approving budgets, or making changes to those bylaws. As a condo owner, you have voting rights on these matters. So it's important to, actively participate and make your voice heard.
Okay, so condo ownership isn't just about enjoying, the lifestyle and amenities. It's also about being an engaged member of that community.
Exactly, exactly. It's about taking ownership, contributing to the well-being of the community, helping shape its future.
I love that perspective. It really adds another layer of meaning to, to owning a condo. Now, before we wrap up this deep dive, any final words of wisdom for our listeners out there?
Buying a condo, especially new launch, it can seem daunting at first, but with careful planning, thorough research, and this is key, seeking expert advice when needed, it can be a really, really smooth and rewarding experience.
Couldn't agree more. And remember, your solicitor and property agents are valuable resources throughout this whole journey.
Yeah.
Don't hesitate to, lean on their expertise.
Absolutely. They can really help you navigate the complexities of, contracts, regulations, all those nitty-gritty details.
Right. Well, there you have it, folks. Our comprehensive deep dive into buying a new launch condo here in Singapore. We've covered everything from finances and condo hunting to legalities and those ongoing responsibilities.
Yeah, we hope this deep dive has equipped you with the knowledge and confidence to embark on, your own condo buying adventure.
That's right. And remember, buying a condo is more than just, a transaction.
It is.
It's an investment,
Yep.
a lifestyle,
Yeah.
a community, and a future. So go out there, explore those amazing developments, and make those condo dreams a reality.
That's a wrap for this episode of Singapore Property Talk Law. Join us next time for another insightful deep dive into Singapore's vibrant property market. Until then, happy condo hunting.